What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Celtics Central video. Today we're going to be previewing the NBA Finals and what I think is going to happen between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. So there's some big storylines going into this series. We know that Kristaps Porzingis is returning with being out for over a month now, and we know Kyrie Irving's returned to Boston. We know there's no love lost between those two people. Kyrie Irving has came out and said that Boston, they can boo him all he wants. He thinks that he deserves to be booed for everything that happened, and it continues to work. I mean, Kyrie's 0-10 in his last 10 games versus the Boston Celtics. But frankly, I don't think Kyrie should be booed. I think he's a different person than he was in Boston. A lot of things have changed, and I think people from Boston kind of just need to let it go. I mean, the Celtics are in a better situation now without Kyrie Irving, and the team they have now wouldn't be as successful, I think, if Kyrie Irving was still on that team and we had to go through all the turmoil that was in 2018. So now let's kind of preview how the Boston Celtics and how the Dallas Mavericks have got here briefly. So the Boston Celtics have had a pretty easy path to the NBA Finals. A lot of people in the media have said that this is the easiest path to the NBA Finals ever. I'm not really too sure on that. I wouldn't put it that far. But the Boston Celtics have played a Miami Heat team without Jimmy Butler, winning in 5 games. Same with the Cleveland Cavaliers, missing Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. And then for the Indiana Pacers, the Boston Celtics swept them in 4 games with no Tyrese Halliburton for the latter half of that series. But again, the Celtics were the number 1 seed all season by far throughout the whole league, and I think they deserve to have an easier path to the finals. I think having a 10 or so game lead on the rest of the conference means something. I think people should take the regular season more seriously if they want opportunities like this to happen. Again, it's not guaranteed every year because we saw a 1 seed last year and the Miami Heat lose. The Milwaukee Bucks lose to the Miami Heat. But I think a lot of times the number 1 seed should have the easiest path to the finals because they took the regular season seriously. And we know that the NBA is trying to stop load managing. I think the Boston Celtics really played it well, resting guys here and there, but really taking that regular season seriously to try and push themselves and get themselves ready for the NBA playoffs. So now with the Dallas Mavericks beat the LA Clippers in 6 games. Kawhi Leonard wasn't healthy for that entire series. He did play a couple of games, but he just wasn't himself through that series. You could tell he was hobbling. He didn't have that same level of explosiveness. And even every time he tried to dunk the ball, something wasn't right with him. In the second round, they played the OKC Thunder, 1 in 6 games, and that was a big PJ Washington series. And I think that's someone who the Dallas Mavericks will need to really step up in this NBA Finals in order for them to get over that hump. And then in the conference finals, they played a Minnesota Timberwolves team who looked red hot after beating the Denver Nuggets. But with the Minnesota Timberwolves struggling in that series, I think the Dallas Mavericks really were able to focus in on their defense, and Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic really stepped up. I wasn't even more so impressed with the offense, but I was really impressed how they played defense. They made players like Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley really struggle throughout that series, and Karl-Anthony Towns was struggling to find a shot for most of that series, if not all of it. So now I kind of want to preview the Boston Celtics versus the Dallas Mavericks, kind of tell you how I think they match up and where I think each team kind of needs to focus in order to win their first NBA championship. So with the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks, we both know they have 2 phenomenal duos, arguably the best 2 duos in the league. The Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So with the Boston Celtics, they have a lot of more role players compared to the Dallas Mavericks. They have people like Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis coming back. We'll kind of see how he looks after the first couple of games. Kind of see how his conditioning is and see if he's really favoring that calf at all. Al Horford, and then Payne Pritchard off their bench, I think, is someone who could give a lot of spark. Kind of be someone like a TJ McConnell, like how Pacers try to use him. I think that's someone that can really try to change the pace when Payne Pritchard comes in the game. But with the Dallas Mavericks, their big men in Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford really played phenomenal last series. They frankly outplayed Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, which is what many people thought was a Timberwolves' strength going into that series. We knew the Dallas Mavericks had great guard play, but it was those big men, the rookie and Derek Lively. Could he really step up? The midseason acquisition of Daniel Gafford, could he really elevate their team and be a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year and someone who has claimed to be the best 3-point shooter in NBA history, big man wise? But Dallas Mavericks really took it to them. They were very physical with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. They weren't able to get whatever they wanted throughout that series. They were struggling. And on the offensive end, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford were able to run that pick and roll with Luka Doncic very consistently in order to get to exactly where they wanted to be. Luka was able to find Derek Lively on so many lobs, which is just so big for the Dallas Mavericks offense. We know that Luka and Kyrie can get whatever shot they want at any given time. But if Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford are rolling to the basket, running full speed, and just flat out balling in a series like that. I think it's something that they really should try to attack the Boston Celtics with. Again, the Boston Celtics have something on offense. I think that's going to give the Dallas Mavericks some more problems. But that's somewhere where the Dallas Mavericks really have a good advantage. They have one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the league, in Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving, the best, probably second or third best two option in the league, and then some role men that complement them perfectly and work phenomenal with Luka Doncic's game. So we got Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford versus Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. They both kind of do a lot of opposite things. Gafford and Lively are more so rim runners, sprint up and down the floor. They're not really going to space the floor at all, but they're going to crash the boards and they're going to make some winning plays. But for the Boston Celtics and Kristaps and Al, they both space the floor phenomenally. This allows the Celtics to run 5-out offense, which is something they've been running all year, with 5 people on the perimeter, allowing them to run pick and roll very smoothly, allowing Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, etc., get down to the lane and not have those big old rim protectors trying to block their shots and make the paint very congested. This allows for Jason Tatum to get a lot of kickouts, driving kicks for all of them, and get a lot of the three-point shot going. We know the Celtics love to rely on three-point shots, so allowing the big men to be spaced out, this opens up the floor tremendously for the Boston Celtics. And if KP can come back in the series, we know he's missed over a month, but if he can come back and find his three-point rhythm right away, it's just going to be so big for the Boston Celtics. Because I think the Dallas Mavericks will begin the series by trying to play off a little bit on Kristaps, allowing the big men to kind of get in the paint a little bit and trying to enforce some shots and kind of deter the Celtics from driving a lot. But if Kristaps Porzingis can come in and hit 2 out of 3 threes to start the game in the first or second quarter, this is so big for the Boston Celtics because that's going to scoot the big men out and allow the Boston Celtics to have so much more room to work and open up their offense tremendously. Next, I want to talk about who's going to be that third option in this series. So we know the Boston Celtics have someone like a Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps, who can really at any given night go for 25 to 30 points. But so do the Dallas Mavericks. We saw someone like a PJ Washington be an extreme X factor in that Oklahoma City Thunder series. And if he can replicate that, kind of have what Andrew Wiggins did in Golden State in 2022 and really just step up and be that extra push that they need to get them over the hump. Because we know Luka and Kyrie are going to combine for 55 to 70 points a game. But if PJ Washington can be that 15 to 20 point scorer for them, I think that's something really, really big for them. And I think that's going to, if he can do that throughout the entire series, I think the Dallas Mavericks have a very good chance at winning. But for the Boston Celtics, I think they have multiple guys who can do that. They have Derek White, who we see in the Miami Heat series, was on fire throughout that series, averaging 20 to 25 points a game. Drew Holiday in that Pacers series, not only defensively, but offensively, he really showed up. And even towards the latter half of that Cleveland series, he was a completely different player after maybe you heard a lot of the media talking about how he's not a playoff riser and that the Milwaukee Bucks really won that trade by trying to get rid of him. But I think he really answered the bell well, and he stepped in not only his defense but his offensive play as well. And then Kristaps is kind of the X factor. We don't really know what we're going to get. Are we going to get the Kristaps from the regular season where he was playing phenomenal, hitting shots around the court, playing pretty good defense, and just allowing the Celtics to run a different type of offense than they do with Al Horford? Kristaps provides a lot better rim protection for the Celtics. Obviously helps their rebounding, something that Al Horford has struggled with in the Pacers series. We saw them really pick on us on the rebounding interior. So Kristaps back, I think it could help to alleviate some of that pressure from Jason Tatum to have to get so many rebounds a game and kind of just allow the Celtics to get out and more in transition. So then who's going to be that surprise player? That's kind of who I want to get into next. Because you know every series there's a game where one of the role players just really plays phenomenal. I'm kind of curious who's that going to be. Is it going to be someone like a Payton Pritchard going for 12 to 15 in a game, really going 3 for 3 from 3? He comes in the first or second quarter and he just lights up the floor. Is it going to be someone like a Derrick Jones who starts the game by hitting 2 or 3 threes in the corner? Could it be someone like a Dante Exum who comes and hits a few threes, gets a couple steals, and allows the Dallas Mavericks to gain a lot of momentum in the game? There's those small role players who can come in and hit some big shots, maybe like a Sam Hauser come in, hit 2 threes in there, to score 6 points, but that's a big 6 points the Celtics need to try and close and start quarter as well. We know Joe Mazzulla really tries to emphasize the Boston Celtics starting and ending quarter as well, and kind of talking about the margins of victory. There's somewhere the Celtics really need to improve, because in that Indiana Pacers series, the first, second, and third quarter, they did not close a lot of quarters well. There was a game where they're up 18 to 19 points, and the Indiana Pacers closed on like a 7-0 run, 8-1 run, allowing the Indiana Pacers to cut the gap to 10 or 11 going into the next quarter. And that's just really big momentum plays because that allows the Pacers to reset now and try and start the quarter well too, and then cut that 10-point lead now down to 3 or 4 points. It's allowing them to get back in the game completely when the lead was just 17, 18 points. Um, Next, I want to talk about how would the Boston Celtics be focused for every game. We've seen a couple games throughout this playoffs, even some of them that they ended up winning, but they come out lackadaisical. They come out not being aggressive, kind of taking what the defense is giving them, and not trying to be aggressive and get the shots that they want them to get and Joe Mazzulla wants them to get. We saw that in the Indiana Pacers series, the game where Jaylen Brown hit that game-winning three. He was phenomenal throughout that game, but the Celtics was something was off about them. Their defense was very lazy. They had to turn up their defense tremendously just to get back into that game. And in this NBA Finals, if the Dallas Mavericks come out hot, like I think they will, the Boston Celtics cannot afford to be lazy coming into a game, not playing good defense, not hustling, going for those loose balls and those 50-50 balls that win them games. The Boston Celtics need to be very particular in what they're accepting on offense and not falling into the trap of what the Dallas Mavericks want them to do. Next, I want to talk about the Mavs, where they really need to focus. Besides like their big men, they have the advantage right there, probably in the boards. If they can be very aggressive, gain some offensive rebounds, gain some second possessions, who they should attack. I think there's one person that a lot of teams have tried to attack in the playoffs, and that's Al Horford. I think the Mavericks will do a lot of trying to attack Al Horford beginning the series. I think if he starts to come off the bench, not sure how KP will come back yet, but they're going to try to tackle him in the pick and roll, I think. To start with Luka Doncic, I think Jaylen Brown will start on Luka. So I think they'll try to bring Al Horford in the pick and roll and kind of get Al Horford one-on-one with Luka. So we know the Celtics do not blitz a lot. So I'm curious to see if the Celtics will end up blitzing Luka Doncic and how Luka Doncic will respond to that. The Celtics, usually Joe Mazzulla does not like to blitz, but I think Luka Doncic is one of those players where I wouldn't blame him for trying to blitz, trying to get the ball out of his hands. Maybe not early and every time, but kind of just mixing it up, kind of not letting Luka kind of feel for the game and kind of keeping him unexpected of what is kind of happening next. But again, Al Horford in the pick and roll is somewhere the Dallas Mavericks can allow Luka to isolate one-on-one potentially, and even Kyrie Irving. We know these are the best one-on-one players we have in this league, and so if it comes down to a fourth quarter and Al Horford is still in the game, I think that's somewhere that they're going to try to attack. Also, the Dallas Mavericks are an amazing clutch team. So we know that if a game's 5 to 6 points in the fourth quarter, the Dallas Mavericks have to feel comfortable. So what they need to do is weather the storm from the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics can get out fast in games. We've seen games in the Miami Heat series and other series where they get out a 13-0 run just to start the game. The Dallas Mavericks need to be able to weather the storm and weather the first 3.5 quarters, because if they can keep the game between 3 to 5 points going into the last half of the fourth quarter or even later, that's super big for the Dallas Mavericks. We know Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving have shown countless times that they can hit clutch shot after clutch shot. So if you can keep that game close, this will allow them to make clutch plays. And we know the Boston Celtics have been all right. I think they've gotten a lot better in the clutch, but they don't have someone like a Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving who have done this countless and countless of times. We've seen Luka Doncic hit game winners last series. Kyrie Irving hit game winners in the finals. It's just in their DNA, and I think that's somewhere the Boston Celtics need to try to avoid, keep that lead 9 to 10 points halfway through the fourth, and kind of not let those games be close. There's going to be some close games. I think the Boston Celtics definitely can win those ones. But you don't want to have 5 to 6 close games in a series, all of them being decided like that, because looking back on it, I think the Dallas Mavericks would be better than 500 in those games. So you want to try to keep those leads a little bit higher for the Boston Celtics. They're really good when they're hitting shots. So if they can hit shots, get hot from three, I don't think a lot of these games could be close down the stretch, giving the Boston Celtics a phenomenal chance to win this series. So with that being said, I kind of want to get my prediction out. So my prediction is Boston in 6. My prediction is that Boston will win the first 2 games of this series. I think they'll come out very focused. On game 3, they'll be heading back to Dallas. Hearing a lot of the media, they'll have an extra day off in between traveling. I think the Boston Celtics will come out flat in game 3. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving will really step on the Boston Celtics in this game, probably winning 15 points or so. Game 4, I think the Boston Celtics will come back and win game 4. They're really good once facing a loss. This helps them get refocused, and it sucks they had to have a loss in order to get refocused, but this is kind of what the Boston Celtics have done all year, so I kind of have to take that at face value and believe that's kind of who this team is. But then in Game 5, Boston Celtics will be traveling back home, have that extra day off in between, hearing that the media will be there, trophy presentation potentially, and I think Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving will spoil that, sending the game 6 back to Dallas. Boston Celtics up 3-2. And in Game 6, I think that's where the Boston Celtics finish the series in Dallas. Unfortunately, not with their home crowd But I think Jason Tatum will finish as Finals MVP, averaging above 30. I think Jaylen Brown will be close to 30 as well. And I think some big pieces throughout the series will be Derek White having a game where he gets 20 to 23 points in a game. Kristaps will come back, I think, very good in the first few games of the series, and I think towards the latter half of the series he might not be as good shooting the ball. But I think someone like Al Horford will be very good down the stretch. There's NBA Finals. There's a lot of rest in between. We've already had over a week off, and the extra days in between the NBA Finals I think will help Al Horford a lot. We've seen him be very effective when he has 3 days off in between. So I think this is something the Celtics can really back and rely on Al Horford maybe finding his shot again like he was in the latter half of that Pacers series and being very consistent from that 3-point line. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. And until next time, peace.